Princess Diana's private letters have just been uncovered, and they reveal a devastating truth that shatters the public image of Camilla Parker Bowles and exposes the painful secrets the royal family desperately wanted to keep buried. These letters are not just written words, they are the raw, unfiltered emotions of a woman who was trapped in a marriage full of deceit, manipulation, and betrayal. What shocking revelations lie within these pages? What truths have been hidden for so long? Prepare yourself, because once you read these letters, the entire royal narrative will be upended. The letters paint a picture of a betrayal so deep that it questions everything we thought we knew about the royal family. Diana's words make it crystal clear that Camilla wasn't just Charles's mistress, she was a calculating force determined to keep her hold over him at all costs. She didn't just sneak around behind closed doors. Camilla manipulated Charles, exploiting his insecurities and keeping him emotionally tethered to her even after he married Diana. The letters reveal how flattery, guilt, and psychological manipulation were used to maintain control over him, creating a power struggle that no one ever expected. Diana's pain and frustration are palpable in every word. She describes how she was systematically pushed aside as Camilla's influence over Charles grew stronger, making her feel like a shadow in her own marriage. She was fighting a battle she knew she couldn't win, a war she was already losing before it even began. But what makes these revelations even more heartbreaking is the complete indifference of the royal family. Diana's suffering was ignored, brushed aside, and treated like a non-issue. The monarchy, the very institution she thought would offer support, turned its back on her. The letters expose how Charles himself became complicit in Diana's emotional torture. He emotionally neglected her, treating her struggles with cold detachment, as if she were a burden rather than his partner. As her mental health spiraled, Charles not only ignored her pain but continued his affair, ensuring that she would remain isolated and abandoned. What makes this even more shocking is the quiet complicity of the entire royal family. Diana was left to fend for herself while the monarchy remained indifferent, turning a blind eye to her emotional and mental suffering. Even Queen Elizabeth, the supposed matriarch of the family, did nothing to intervene. The royal family's priorities were clear, they valued the institution over the individual suffering of one of their own. But what about Camilla? Her role in this betrayal was far more sinister than anyone imagined. Diana knew from the beginning that Camilla was a problem, but her letters reveal just how deeply she felt betrayed by the woman who would eventually take her place. She describes Camilla's presence as a poison that slowly destroyed her marriage to Charles, leaving her feeling helpless and alone. Her attempts to save her relationship were futile because Camilla's influence was a constant reminder that Diana was never truly wanted by her husband. The sense of powerlessness in Diana's letters is overwhelming, as she struggled to hold onto a marriage that was already broken beyond repair. But the emotional betrayal wasn't the only betrayal Diana had to endure. Her letters reveal the sheer scale of Charles's infidelity and its impact on their relationship. Diana's pain is evident as she describes how Charles's affair wasn't just a brief fling, it was a full-blown emotional entanglement that made her feel completely invisible. She was not just fighting for her husband's love, she was fighting for basic respect, a battle she was slowly losing with each passing day. The way she describes her loneliness, the deep sense of betrayal, and the emotional toll it took on her is heartbreaking. It's impossible to read without feeling a deep sense of anger at how cruelly she was treated by the man she had once loved. Now that these letters have come to light, the world can no longer ignore the depth of the betrayal Diana suffered. The royal family can no longer sweep these revelations under the rug. The truth is out, and it's far more devastating than anyone ever suspected. Camilla's carefully crafted public image has been torn apart, and her reputation is now in ruins. The world sees her for what she truly is, and the weight of her actions cannot be undone. Diana's words are a stark reminder that the royal family's image was more important than the well-being of one of their own, and they allowed her suffering to continue. Diana never expected to feel like a stranger in her own marriage, but that's exactly what happened. She wasn't just competing for her husband's attention, she had already lost from the moment she stepped into the royal family. She felt like an outsider, trapped in a love triangle she never asked to be part of. King Charles, emotionally distant and checked out, was more devoted to another woman than to the one he had married. No matter how hard Diana tried to salvage her marriage, Charles refused to end his relationship with Camilla. The damage was done, and the marriage was beyond repair. Diana had hoped for love, loyalty, and commitment, but instead, she was trapped in a marriage where betrayal was not only tolerated but accepted. The affair that broke Diana was not just a scandal, it was a wound that never healed. Her letters exposed the raw pain of knowing she was in a marriage built on lies. She wasn't naive, she knew about Charles's affair, but she clung to the hope that love or duty would somehow keep him by her side. That hope was shattered when Charles made it clear he had no intention of ending things with Camilla. The betrayal was more than just emotional, it was a daily reality she had to live with. Every royal obligation, every public appearance was tainted by the knowledge that the man standing beside her had already given his heart to someone else. But perhaps the most painful part of all was knowing that Queen Elizabeth knew about the affair and did nothing. Diana believed that the Queen had the power to stop it or at least address it, but instead, she chose silence. That silence spoke louder than any words, and it showed Diana just how little her pain mattered to the royal family. Camilla, meanwhile, showed no remorse. Her affair with Charles wasn't a secret, it was out in the open. She had no problem asserting herself into Diana's world, attending events, and showing up without a second thought. There was no attempt to hide the affair, no concern for the heartbreak she was causing. Camilla's smugness, her lack of empathy for Diana's suffering, only made the situation worse. Diana, powerless to stop it, was forced to fight not just for her husband's love, but for basic respect. And as for Charles, he was indifferent. He never acknowledged the hurt he caused, brushing aside Diana's pain as if it were an inconvenience. He refused to apologize, and when confronted, he deflected blame. His coldness and emotional neglect were as devastating as the betrayal itself. Through it all, Diana's primary concern wasn't herself, it was her children, William and Harry. She feared the impact of their fractured home on them. How would they grow up knowing their father had cast aside their mother? How would they process the knowledge that she had been treated with such disregard? She tried to shield them from the worst of it, but how do you hide the truth from children who live in the public eye? As Diana's personal world crumbled, the pressure of protecting her children became her sole focus, even though she knew she was losing the battle for her marriage and her peace of mind. Diana's private letters reveal that Charles was never truly his own man, Camilla had an overwhelming influence over him. It wasn't just a love affair, it was about power. Camilla had a hold over Charles that no one else could match, and it was clear in the decisions he made. From royal engagements to family matters, Charles prioritized Camilla's needs over his wife's. Diana saw how her role was shrinking while Camilla's presence only grew stronger. Diana wasn't just competing for her husband's attention, she was fighting a battle she had already lost before it even began. And the royal family, instead of stepping in to support her, stood by and allowed it to happen. Diana's letters exposed the hypocrisy of the royal family. While they resisted one of their own, they welcomed Camilla with open arms. Diana felt abandoned, humiliated, and completely powerless, trapped in a system that saw her as a mere asset, not a person. While she fought for her marriage, for her family, the royal family turned a blind eye to her suffering. It was a harsh reality, one that Diana was forced to endure until the end. The marriage of Diana and Charles was never a fairy tale, and the truth behind it is far more heartbreaking than anyone could have imagined. Diana's letters are not just a reflection of her pain, they are a testament to the strength she displayed in the face of insurmountable odds. A strength that, despite everything, still shone through in her work for others.